New multi-viewer magic from Ensemble Designs. Stunning detail and simple setup. Easy, click-to-fill configuration for your Mac, PC, or iPad. The new Avenue Multi-Viewer from Ensemble Designs.
Hi, I'm Mike Graticelli with Broadcast Engineering Online, here today with Mark Richer, president of the ATSC. Hi Mark, how you doing?
Good, Mike, nice to see you again.
So we're here at the NAB 2013 talking about the standards work that you guys are doing. And of course, the big talk of the floor is ATSC 3.0. But people are forgetting about there's actually a 2.0 that was just finalized. Talk a little about 2.0 first.
Right, there's also 1.0, which was never called 1.0 until we had 2.0 and 3.0.
Okay.
But 1.0 is running strong, and
I was going to say it's mature at this point, 1.0.
Yeah, although we're still enhancing, all these enhancements can be used on top of ATSC 1.0, and of course we have ATSC Mobile still being rolled out, and then that's happening, so that's very exciting. But ATSC 2.0,
right.
The concept behind that is to bundle together a lot of different functions and standards and different capabilities that are backwards compatible with ATSC 1.0.
Okay.
So the existing televisions that are out in consumers' homes will continue to work. They'll continue to get HD TV or standard definition, whatever they're watching.
Right.
Mobile will continue to work and work on those receivers.
Sure.
But we add these new features and functions. So ATSC 2.0 is an evolutionary step.
Right.
Okay.
But what improvements has it brought for broadcasters?
Well, as an example, it will provide advanced video coding
sure.
and audio coding. But a big feature, the one I'm the most excited about, is non-real time. And non-real time delivery is basically the broadcaster being able to push files down in non-real time to consumer devices. So when
like a Netflix, for instance?
Well, it's sort of like a Netflix, but this could be used for all kinds of broadcaster content, like local news, national news, sports.
Oh wow, really?
And programming.
Okay.
And so the consumer can turn on their device and have all this content that's already been pushed. The consumers don't really care how they get the content as long as they get it.
That's right.
But broadcasting remains the most efficient way to get content to consumers, content that is very in high demand.
Okay.
So content that's used by many, many people.
Right.
The best way to get to them is to broadcast it to them.
Okay.
You know, content that's long tail content, maybe that's broadcasting is not the way to get it to them.
Right.
But for that core content that most people want, broadcasting is still the most efficient way to get it to them. By going to non-real time and delivering files before the consumer is going to use them, makes it easy for the consumer. It's the kind of experience they're getting used to in other forms. The content is there when and when they want it.
Gotcha. And do you know of any deployments at this point?
Well, right now we're moving into what we call the implementation team phase, where as we finish the standard, we formed a team of companies that are seriously interested in deploying in this case, the ATSC 2.0 standard. And they're putting together demonstrations, they'll be doing interoperability testing, and working to promote it. So that's the implementation team. It's actually being headed up by Dave Siegler from Cox Media.
Sure, I know.
And we have many other companies, consumer electronics companies, and
so will we see something,
companies.
Let's say this year? Some
well,
kind of service?
you can see some demos over in our booth.
Okay.
I don't think you'll see a service this year, except for maybe some field testing, maybe some market tests of some of the features. I think maybe next year you might start to see some services.
Because that sounds like a good idea for multicasting, right? For sub-channels.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it doesn't even have to be a sub-channel. It could be a totally separate service.
Okay.
So there's lots of things you can do with it, though. It's really powerful.
Excellent.
And you know, having it as a standard, a lot of these things can be done different ways, but having it as a standard means we have a better chance of building it into getting it built into consumer products.
Absolutely.
And going through the learning curve and everything.
Because once it's a standard, people then are willing to invest.
Right. And that's always driven broadcasting, is at the core there has to be a common standard. So I think ATSC 2.0 is a great step, bringing new features and functions. And what's good about ATSC 2.0, because in a moment I think we're going to talk about 3.0, but a lot of the things that we're developing for 2.0 can be moved over to 3.0.
Okay.
To ride on top of whatever the new physical layer and transport is.
So if broadcasters invest in some technology that's compatible with 2.0, they may obviously be able to use it going forward.
Right, like all the protocols we're doing for non-real time file delivery, that can all be used in ATSC 3.0. So
Right.
these things build on each other.
Okay, 3.0. Do you agree that the goal
This
is...
is as high as I can count today, by the way, so we're
Yeah,
don't
Mark,
worry.
this is Mark's baby. Is the ultimate goal to have a worldwide standard, and is that realistic?
Well, my ultimate goal is to have a worldwide standard or at least common technologies, and we're working on that in the FOB-TV,
Right.
Future Broadcast Television Initiative. And ATSC 3.0, we hope it comes together with the FOB-TV effort, and we are providing information to FOB-TV, and we're taking information back from FOB-TV. We just came out, so first of all, let me explain ATSC 3.0, what's really important.
Yes.
So I talked about 2.0 being evolutionary.
Right.
3.0 is really revolutionary because it's saying let's start from scratch. We start all over again in terms of the system design.
Right.
So we just say we have a channel, and maybe it's not even 6 megahertz, maybe it's 6 megahertz, maybe not.
Okay.
We want a system that is very scalable in terms of the bandwidth use. The main idea though is we start with this clean sheet of paper. We put out a request for proposals for the physical layer, which is kind of the key base of any
Right.
DTV system. And
Transmission layer, in other words.
Transmission layer. And we're going to get back proposals from all around the world.
Okay.
So that just went out. We'll get some preliminary information back from the companies or organizations planning to propose something to us. Those will be back in August.
Right.
And then in September, the end of September, we'll have proposals in. And I think we'll see proposals from, as I said, all around the world.
Right.
It'll be focused on the physical layer.
Right.
Meanwhile, the ATSC 3.0 group, TG3, which is led by Jim Kutzner of PBS,
Sure.
is going to be working on the other layers of the system. So while we're waiting for those proposals, we're not going to be sitting around doing nothing.
Okay.
So it's exciting, and it's I think it's one of the buzzes here at the convention.
Absolutely, it is. But again, people are wondering, is it possible to have a worldwide standard, given the politics, not even about the technology?
In talking to my colleagues around the world,
Right.
there aren't politics. People would like it to happen.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right. So, I mean, we're going to do ATSC 3.0 with the hopes that it will be part of the worldwide global standard, and we're working hard to say with FOB-TV to make that happen. But we're working to get 3.0 in place either way.
Right.
So
You're talking 2016, right? When you start to see some
that's
type
a
of...
target date.
Right, right.
It's a target date. We could go faster
Right.
or slower depending on industry wants, and industry will be somewhat influenced by the regulatory situation, and I don't mean just in the United States, but
Right.
around the world, because there's some interplay between those two things, regulatory and the technology and what we do. But right now we're driven to just get a new system out. The ATSC standard, it works very well. It's proven itself, but the technologies, like all first generation DTV systems around the world, the DVB-T,
Right.
ISDB, those are first generation systems.
Right.
They're all based on 25-year-old technology at this point.
Right.
And so this is a good time to move forward with new technology, and that's why there's so much interest around the world, because we all see that and we all know there's a great opportunity
Great.
to have a global standard.
And part of that 3.0, people don't realize there is an over-the-air component to it. I mean, over-the-air is not going away, so to speak, in the future.
Oh, we're driven by over-the-air.
Right.
I mean,
Talk about what part of...
So
what,
when we talk about the physical layer, transmission layer, it's about over-the-air terrestrial broadcasting.
Okay.
And that's always our focus in ATSC.
So you see that happening in 2025, let's say, they're going to still do over-the-air broadcasting?
I think they'll be over-the-air broadcasting in 2050. What it looks like, I don't know.
Okay.
I won't be doing standards work anymore.
Right.
You might still be interviewing people, but I won't be doing standards work, I'm fairly certain.
Okay.
But no, I think they'll be broadcasting. I think it'll change.
Okay.
But broadcasting is a mode of operation. It's not just an industry. It's a way to distribute content.
Right.
And it's an efficient way to distribute popular content to numerous devices, infinite number of devices, if you want to say that.
Certainly.
Not mathematically correct, but it's, no matter how many receivers you add on to the system,
Right.
it keeps working.
Right.
And that's not true of any other architecture.
Okay, great. I think you mentioned this or not, but 3.0 is not backwards compatible with what we have today.
Right.
So they require new TVs.
That's exactly
new
right.
transmission systems, whatnot.
Yeah, or it'll have adapters for TVs like we did from go to analog to digital. We had D to A converters. You might remember they cost $40 each or whatever they were, and the coupons.
Right.
So you'll have similar products when we go to ATSC 3.0.
So the government will fund some kind of program. Because my next question is going to be, is it again a mandate 3.0?
Well, I have no idea what the government's going to
Okay.
do. I live in Washington, but I have no clue what the government might do. I know industry through ATSC is moving forward on ATSC 3.0. It is non-backwards compatible. That's how you get the clean sheet of paper.
Right.
And
does that put a big burden on the industry?
You know what the burden is for us? It's only going to be successful if it's so much better than what we have, that it does so much more. It has better features, functions, performance. It has to be just so much better to make it worth going through a transition.
Right.
It was worth it to go from analog to digital. And to go from digital first generation to the next generation called ATSC 3.0, it'll have to have the same kind of leap in performance and features and functions.
And you're confident that it will?
I have no doubt about it.
Great. Last question, bringing us back now to reality. Mobile TV in your country. We had a standard, you completed a standard in 2009.
Right.
Here we are in 13 and it's really not ubiquitous. What are the challenges, do you think, to mobile TV?
Well, I'm on the technical side and the standard side, so I can't really assess that completely or about what's going on in the market, but it does take a long time to get out any new technology in broadcasting, get it to be built into the receiver and so forth. But it is moving forward. There are more companies coming out with products, and there are more stations going on the air. Sinclair just announced 10 new stations.
There's about 150 now. We're saying. But
so I wish there were about 800 stations.
Right.
So I'm a little disappointed. It's been going slowly.
Right.
But I think it's picking up, and I'm not worried. I think it will be a success. It's too good of a thing to not be a success.
Right.
One new thing that's also very exciting that we're showing in our booth is the mobile emergency alert system.
Yes, that was just talk about that.
And that is really exciting. It's now part of the mobile standard. It's a way to get emergency information out to consumers with mobile devices. It actually can wake up the device in an emergency. It will provide a little bit of information by a banner, but you could click on that banner and get all kinds of information, such as weather, evacuation routes, warnings, all kinds of very rich content.
Right.
So it isn't just a simple text message.
Right.
It's very rich, and keep in mind that when we have disasters, often it's the broadcast stations, television and radio, that stay on the air.
Absolutely.
And pump out the information in an efficient way. The other kinds of networks usually break down, either physically break down, or they break down because there's so much traffic on them, because they're not designed. It's terrific technology, but they're not designed to get important information to lots of people at the same time. And broadcasting does that, and that's why, when we put together the mobile emergency alert system to leverage broadcasting even further in providing services to the public and to the government during times of disaster.
Sure, and that's also obviously going in the future why broadcasting is still going to be important, clearly.
It's another reason.
It's another reason.
It's another reason. I think there's lots of reasons it'll be important. Especially in the United States where we have local television.
Yep.
It isn't just terrestrial broadcast delivery, it's that local component of it. And when you take local news, and again, this feeds into the emergency alert kind of stuff.
Right.
When they can provide information using the emergency alerts system, as well as through their normal broadcasts, that's a real important thing to communities, and we can't forget that part of broadcasting.
So, and as president of the ATSC, you take credit for all that, right?
No, just most of it.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Mike.